And we'd like to welcome in former U.S. Ambassador to the UN and former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson. Governor, thank you so much for being here.
Nice to be with you.
Let's start with the end of Title 42. It is expected to vastly increase the number of migrants coming across the border after an already record year. You were the governor of a border state. Do you support ending Title 42?
I support what the president is doing. I have found when I was in the Congress as governor, this immigration issue is an impossible issue to resolve because every human being has the right to asylum, fleeing from murders, from violence, from repression. But then I think we've got to find creative ways to deal with this issue long range. One would be economic development for the region, in the region, not provided just by the United States, but by Mexico, by Central American countries. The president of Mexico has proposed this. President Biden is supporting it. And then you've got to be humane. Look at those human beings. They're human beings. They deserve to be treated correctly. Now, this is a strain on a lot of communities in the United States, no question about it. But let's deal with this issue on a long-range basis. And we're unable to do that because the funding that the Congress needs for proper funding for these migrants, for their treatment, for their all kinds of activity that is needed on a human basis, it just doesn't happen. And for law enforcement, to get enough people to take care of these people, to get law enforcement the funding that it needs.
Once Custom and Border Patrol facilities do fill up, where do these migrants go and who will end up paying for it?
Well, the states that they go to are the border states. First of all, that's where they seem to be coming in. But I don't support efforts by the governor of Florida, the governor of Texas to bus them to the East Coast. That's a political move. That's a cheap political trick. Let's find a way to deal with this in a humane basis, but also find a way where there's cost sharing, where we find not just local communities, that they're going to have to bear some of the costs, but the states, the federal government, our federal agencies. We can't just turn our backs and ignore the problem. It is a crisis.
I do hear you saying that you support the president. Meanwhile, we are seeing some Democrats from across the country. We are seeing Governor Newsom in California saying the current system will break his state. New York Mayor Adams requesting $1 billion in federal funds. And we just had the Denver mayor on yesterday who's declaring a state of emergency there. Why do you think the White House is pushing forward with revoking this when even Democrats across the country are saying this will hurt them?
Well, I started out by saying I was a Democrat in the Congress, Democratic governor. This is a very tough problem. And we've got to have a bipartisan solution. We've got to find ways to deal with this migrant influx as Title II expires. And we haven't found that. It's going to take some tough decisions. I think the president has done what he can. But he can't just do it alone. The states have to be part of the solution. And when governors of states bust these migrants in political stunts, that doesn't help. And local communities, the El Paso mayor near New Mexico, he says it's a crisis. Governor Newsom, it is a crisis. But let's find a collective way to deal with it. Let's have a summit of governors and the White House and agencies and local citizens, local communities, and come up with some solutions and get the Congress to pass them. A lot of it is going to be funding, more personnel.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.